Hey, Amie,
Yeah, Juan.
give me that beat.
It's Baseball Shangri-La with Amie Cuevas and Juan Ramirez.
What's up, party people? She is Amie Cuevas. I am Juan Ramirez. You are listening or watching Baseball Shangri-La. If you are listening to us on the audio portion of the show, please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Rate us, write us a review, help spread the word. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Hit that notification button, give us a thumbs up, leave us comments. We love engaging with you. And most importantly, if you're following us on social media, make sure you're following us on X at BB Shangri-La, on Instagram, YouTube, and Blue Sky at Baseball Shangri-La. Amy, ¿cómo estás?
Hey, you are still on assignment. I know if people are looking at our little thumbnail like when we post online, like Juan is on the show. He's here. He's just on assignment.
That's right. I am on assignment to call in once again.
So not first time caller this time.
Long time listener though. Um, Sometimes life gets in the way, guys, and there are just things that are out of your control, and I can't be in my luscious studio. Um, so we find a workaround, and this is what we did. We found a workaround on this.
So that we still
Um,
get to have you in here and we don't have to cancel the show because that would be a bummer.
That's right. So, look, there is a lot going on. We're going to start with some baseball. Amy, I know you want to preface this episode with
Yep.
something, correct?
Yeah, so we got a lot of feedback over the last week with the current events that are going on. A lot of people who come to this show to escape reality and to have their safe space, and we want to respect that. But we also got, feedback from other people that, some of these things are concerning. So we're going to try to we're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. So we're going to try to make everybody happy. So we are going to start with baseball. We're going to do our normal updates, our recaps, any I guess announcements and things like that that come up, and then we will pause. We will give everybody a warning. So if this is your safe space and you want to exit, you have time to turn off the show, and you know what? Come back and visit us next week. We just have a couple brief updates at the end, but we want to be sensitive to what everybody comes here for, whether that is for the baseball, whether it is for some of the other updates around the league. So just know that we're going to talk baseball for a little bit, but we'll give you a heads up.
Yes. Basically, there will be a disclaimer that we will drop and say, for those of you that may be triggered by the next conversation, that would probably be a good time to stop listening to the rest of the episode.
And we don't
Um,
want to drop it on you guys in the middle because, again, for everybody, we want to preserve everybody's peace, whatever that looks like. So we don't want you to be mid episode and be worried that something's going to come up. We're going to be respectful of that as we go forward.
That's right. And there's no judgment here, ladies and gentlemen. There's no judgment. You do what you have to do to protect your mental health. So we want to be respectful of that. But we will, just letting you know, the first half of this show, or maybe even the first three quarters of this show, is going to be all baseball. It'll be all baseball news, everything baseball related. And then once we get into current events, that, in my opinion, are impacting the team, we will go ahead and give you the heads up.
Yep. So, with that being said, should we dive into some baseball?
Yeah. What do you got in terms of updates?
I was gonna let you Vince Scully us first. We don't need Jose Ayala coming after us.
Oh, wow. And a pleasant good evening to you, wherever you may be. Thank you, Amy, for remembering. I totally forgot.
Of course, and that gave me an opportunity to mute myself while I coughed, so I didn't hurt all of you guys' ears. Updates. It doesn't seem like there was much going on. Even though we know the pitching situation is what it is, the Dodgers had a couple of transactions. I'll save the biggest news for last. But they recalled Matt Sauer last week from Oklahoma City. We did see them, DFA Ryan Lutos the previous series, and the Nationals did claim him off of waivers, and they did DFA right-handed pitcher Jose Urena, and he did elect for free agency. And then this one was a little bit interesting. Honestly, I didn't have more time to look into it, but left-handed pitcher Garrett McDaniels returned to the Dodgers from the Angels. So I don't know if that was a typo on the MLB transactions page. We can dive into that a little bit more unless you know what happened with that off the top of your head. But we did also see some of the pitchers getting some work in. So in San Diego, Blake Snell, Shohei Ohtani, Clayton Kershaw, they got work in on Tuesday. So Shohei had pitched a sim game. He had a couple innings versus minor league players that they brought in. So it's his third simulated game. And in this case, he's done 44 pitches, or he did 44 pitches over 3 simulated innings on Tuesday. Blake Snell threw about 15 pitches. It was his first time throwing since April. And he did mention that his shoulder hasn't been pain-free up until about 2 weeks ago. So while this bullpen that he threw was only at about 70% intensity, it's good to hear that he is finally pain-free. And then Kershaw obviously was getting in some work prior to his start. I believe he pitched on, where's my notes, on Saturday. We did also hear that Tyler Glasnow had a bullpen session. It was his third. He got his velo between like 95, 96 miles per hour. And then they're going to figure out where he goes next in the next 7 to 10 days with, how he's recovering. And we did see Emmett Sheehan did pitch in the minors. He did 3.1 innings, which was a little less than the Dodgers were hoping for. 6 hits, 4 runs, no walks, but 7 strikeouts, 2 home runs. So out of the 63 pitches, 43 of those were for strikes. And unfortunately, we did hear that Roki Sasaki has paused his throwing program. He's just not comfortable throwing right now, and there is no timeline for starting him back up, which leads us into some of the other players. Freddie has a quad issue going on. Dave Roberts did tell him that if he wants to play, he's going to need to manage that. So we did see that last week over like the Saturday and Sunday games, him running a little slower. But even with that, he was making it to the bases in record time. So, even when he's hurt, he plays well, which kind of takes us into the big news as we record on Monday night. Shohei Ohtani is supposedly making his pitching debut this evening. So he is ready to pitch in a big league game. Dave Roberts said that he let them know. So I don't know if you heard, but ticket sales have almost quadrupled in price because everybody is clamoring to go tonight. So that was my mouthful of updates. Do you have any that you want to kind of fill in the gaps on, Juan?
I do just want to add to that Emmett Sheehan, the speculation is that he's going to be actually activated this week.
And he could pitch possibly Wednesday. They haven't confirmed it.
Right. So that to me seems interesting. Again, are these moves being made out of necessity, or are these moves being made because they are ready?
Mm-hmm. And we don't know.
You and I have had this discussion about Shohei. Like, how could, realistically, how far could they extend him? Because of the fact that they can only do it to bullpens or pitching live batting practice or simulated games. So I do feel that this 1 to 2 innings.
Oh, it sounds like you're getting eaten by a robot. Hold on.
I think going to be rehabbing pitching.
So what you were saying was that he's everything that I had heard up to this point was that he was just going to pitch the 1 inning. But again, that's not set in stone. That could be speculation too. So you were saying that whether he pitches 1, 2 innings, what was that you were saying?
Am I back? Can you hear me now?
Yep. You're back.
Is Max Headroom?
Yep.
Okay. All
You're
right.
all good.
Max Headroom is no longer in the room. Okay. I think what we're seeing is that Shohei is going to be rehabbing in Major League Baseball. I think that's what would normally be for any other pitcher a rehab stint down in the minor leagues. Shohei is going to be doing his at the major league level, which I think is really hard to do. So I know everybody's excited to see what he looks like today. I did see the 1 to 2 innings, but I think it's all going to depend on pitch count, obviously. If he has a quick first inning, maybe they do let him go out for a second inning. But it is going to be curious to see. Just not too long ago, you and I had this conversation. Let him do this, and I know my man Roland is going to give me credit. I know Roland's going to be like, "Well, this is what Juan said was going to happen. Why not do this?" Well, again,
and we had a lot of people saying that it potentially would, because the Dodgers were delaying and saying potentially after the All-Star break. It was like, really, are they gonna, like, they have the only two-way player in the league, I mean, outside of Kike Hernandez, which we'll talk about later. But I mean, all joking aside, this is new territory. So whether they were going to stick to the original plan and do it after the All-Star break, or Shohei's like, no, I'm ready, like, no more of this, I want to at least test it out and see how it is. I think it's uncharted water no matter what, and they're just kind of making it up as they go. And this is either going to be part of the blueprint, or it's going to be the, hey, maybe don't do it this way if we get another two-way player in the future. Like, you're going to be able to learn from it either way.
So do you believe that this is coming from him?
So this is where, like, I don't necessarily like playing the speculation game. If they're saying that it came from him, then I'm gonna, okay, cool. If but whether it's, if it's well timed, I don't know. Did they all come together and put their heads together and say, like, what if we try this? I don't know.
I just find it really interesting because it sounds like reinforcements are on the way. With the fact that Emmett Sheehan may be activated this week, yes, Glasnow is about 10 days away, and again, I don't know if you can really depend on that Glasnow is going to come back.
And I think he's like 10 days away just from figuring out what they're doing with him, not necessarily 10 days away from coming back. I know for me, I tend to be more cautious with stuff like this. I don't necessarily want to bring him back this early. But if he's saying he's ready and they agree, far be it for me. I'm not licensed and a trainer or a medical practitioner on that team. Because I want to see him, for all the discussion we had on a previous episode, I want to see him be able to hit well into the postseason. I hope they're not bringing him back too early. But if it's only an inning, I guess it's a good test.
I think that's what everyone's fear is, Amie, and we're going to find out. My thing is going to be this: if he goes out there, let's say he pitches that first inning, and it's a successful inning, he goes 1, 2, 3. Watch, I would not be surprised if we start hearing they should make him the closer. They should use him for one inning late in the game. Watch. You're going to hear, if you're only going to let him pitch one inning, you should let him pitch towards the late in a game when you need him. And I may be wrong on that. Now, I'm not.
I don't think you're wrong. This whole thing is, again, I guess it's because it's uncharted. Here I am laughing. Who knows? Maybe he fits into that closer role and he does it well.
And just to be clear, for those of you who are keeping tabs, I'm not advocating for this. I know that there is no way that Shohei can be a closer. You don't want him pitching that much, but I'm anticipating how the fan base is going to react.
Yeah, I wouldn't want him as a closer, just because I wouldn't want that much pressure put on him at the end of the game after he has been DHing throughout. I'd rather, let's start him out. You do the more taxing thing in the beginning, and then you just continue to hit throughout the game, versus you're hitting, you're playing the game, whatever, and then you still have to go in and pitch. But again, that's me being overly cautious.
Like I said, I'm just waiting for the fan base. Well, if he's only going to pitch one inning, why didn't you just have him pitch the 9th?
And honestly, this is where I feel like it comes in with the fan base, especially with comments and whatnot. Like, everybody's going to have an opinion. And at the end of the day, the Dodgers are going to do what they're going to do. So, we can all have opinions. We can all think what we want, what they should do, or we just roll along. But the Dodgers are going to do what they're going to do. That's right.
So, yeah, you want to do some recapping? You want to talk about the show pods in the Dodgers series from earlier last week?
I mean, some stuff did happen. There were a lot of people who were very concerned before these series with the way that the Dodgers have been playing. Like, oh gosh, we could be toppled off of the top. And here we are going into Monday's game. We're up 2 games over San Francisco and 3 over the Padres. So again, these are going to be some big games going into the Padres series this week. But the Dodgers managed to pull it out. So I know I tend to be a little bit more optimistic in those things. But they dropped 2, but they won 4. Which, did you think they were going to do that well in the series?
No, I was very pleasantly surprised. They did what they did in the World Series in that second game against the Show Pods. When the Show Pods came out there and were just hitting everything. I know everybody was feeling really bad for Sauer. Sauer pulled a Brent Honeywell, ladies and gentlemen. Sauer went out there and he took one for the team. I think they were saying on the broadcast, I just don't remember the last time that a reliever threw over 100 pitches.
Because he threw 111 pitches.
Yeah. I think it was probably from who knows what century that there was record of that. But, I was watching the game and I was saying, why aren't they
hold on, partner. We need to give you a pause, a reboot, whatever payphone you're calling in from. We got a little garbled there. Just to give you your connection some time to kind of resettle. With those 111 pitches, he did also throw 4 2/3 innings. So Trevino did come in and he pitched that first inning and it was scoreless, but poor Matt Sauer, 13 hits, 9 runs, 9 earned runs, 3 balls, 6 strikes, but 1 home run. Like, out of all of that, it was only 1 home run. So in the grand scheme, let's see if we got you back.
Am I back?
You are back.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. I have terrible reception where I'm located at.
Yeah, so we're trying to make the show go while we also have Juan out on assignment because we didn't want to not put out an episode. So thank you guys for being patient with us. And like we said, you guys can turn this into a hydration game if you'd like. So if Juan doesn't say as many looks in this episode, you can always drink when it gets a little garbled.
So now the new game is going to be whenever I speak like Max Headroom.
Mm-hmm.
Drink.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What I was going to say is that I was watching the game with my daughter, and my daughter said, why aren't they pulling him? Like, she was really feeling bad for this poor guy. And I told her, he is taking one for the team. He knows it. Everyone in the dugout knows it. A lot of people that are watching this game knows his job right now is to try to take up as many innings as he can and take his ass whipping like a man. And there are a lot of people, if you remember last year in the postseason, how Max Muncy gave, the Kenny Powers cosplayer all the credit in the world for taking the ass beating that he got with the Metropolitans.
Mm-hmm.
So being that everybody was just like, well, the Dodgers clearly punted that game. And just like in the playoffs, it helped them in the third game of that series with the Show Pods.
I don't know if you were listening to the broadcast, but Steven Nelson, I think he even posted on Twitter, but him and Rick Monday, they were struggling through, especially when Kike came in the 6th to pitch, which was like probably, I think, one of the earliest times we've ever had a position player come in and pitch, and then not only do that, but pitch, the remaining innings. They were talking about the books that they were reading. Steven Nelson at one point was eating a sandwich. Like it was a little bit dire. But there was a cool post on Twitter the following day. So Alden Gonzalez had talked to Jackson Merrill, and he said that Kike threw him the nastiest cutter he had ever seen. And Alden asked him, like, were you being sarcastic? And Merrill swore that he wasn't. And when they went to go talk to Kike about that, he said, well, I mean, why do you think the numbers are what they are? So that was prior to giving up the grand slam, in the next game. But still, it kind of makes for, funny commentary. And I shouldn't say not the next game, Saturday's game. Before I get a base running blunder, let me make sure I clarify.
Yeah, that was Kike made more than one appearance on the mound this week, and I know that earlier in the season we were talking about this, and it's like, oh, come on, Juan. How often do these position players pitch? Well, once again, here's another week where not only did we see the Dodgers position player pitch, and he pitched twice this week, but the Gigantes had a position player pitch this week also in that series against the Dodgers.
Well, and
So
Kike
while a
pitched in
lot
two
of people are
very
saying,
he pitched in two very different situations. The first was when they just like basically like sour wore it, but they weren't able to bring up any offense in that Padres game. And then when Kike was pitching in that Saturday game, it's because the Dodgers were up by so much they didn't want to burn another pitcher after, Kershaw and Kopech had come in.
yeah, look, like I said, for drink. Like I said, a lot of people will argue with me that it doesn't happen that often, Juan. It sure does feel like we see position players pitch a lot.
Well, and who knows? Maybe we will see a mercy rule as part of those CBA conversations coming up, in the next year or so. In the case of the one on Tuesday with the Padres, it almost felt like we all knew that they weren't coming back at that point. Like, could there not be some kind of mercy rule? But again, because that affects the financials, who knows how MLB wants to work that out, So everybody just had to buckle up and either watch it and see what came of it, or, you always have the opportunity to turn your TV off. So
why did you think it felt like they didn't have a chance in that game, that they wouldn't come back?
Not necessarily that they wouldn't. I think it was just because they like took a bunch of people out early. Like they were taking people out in the bottom of the sixth. So like Teoscar was out, Mookie, Shohei. So in cases like that, it didn't feel like they necessarily gave up, but it was like, all right, our offense isn't firing tonight. Like Dylan Cease had their number. He pitched for 7 innings, and the Dodgers pretty much, they didn't even score till he came out of the game. So did they decide to just call it because they didn't have it? I think because we were seeing so many opportunities that they weren't able to capitalize on, that it just felt like, all right, this game isn't going anywhere. And the main guys are out. Like when you're taking Shohei out in the bottom of the sixth, and Kike's coming into pitch, not 1, but 2 in, what did he do? 2 1/3 innings. Kind of felt like, all right, we're just going to chalk this up as a loss, and we're going to come back and do our best tomorrow, and hopefully we save the bullpen.
You mean they punted the game?
Yeah, like you said in the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, and that is, I think that's why when you have a position player pitching in the 6th inning and you have clearly indicated to everybody, here is the white flag, then I really don't see a problem with using the mercy rule.
Oh, you're breaking up again. So drink, everybody. And I don't think you're wrong. Like, if you are going to have somebody come in, like you just said, in the 6th inning, does it make sense if your position player is going to come in at that point and have a mercy rule? Because somebody was arguing for it. I think it was at my Cooperstown symposium, because they were talking about how people hate seeing this. There's certain things that are happening with some of the rule changes, but it does help the players. So not just position players pitching, but the ghost runner on second in extra innings that people are so against. But at the same time, that ghost runner helps save the bullpen for the next game. So while there are many people that think it's detrimental to the game, it actually is doing some good.
So I moved positions now. So
are you on a new payphone?
I literally went on a cliff. I'm hanging off of the cliff because I got an extra bar here. So I might actually not sound like Max Headroom. So let's see how that.
You were for a second, but it sounds like you're clearing up. We may have to get you like a hanger and some tinfoil so you can just like balance on one foot.
Absolutely. Look, in the end, though, Amie, I had to say, for them to be the show pods, and I know we harp on this every week that the Dodgers are not at full strength, but for them to take 2 out of 3 and win series, which is exactly what you want at this point, is just to win series, to do it when they don't have when they're basically like using tape and paper clips and rubber bands to string together a pitching staff, I think that is huge for this team right now.
Yeah, and even in some of the times where it looks a little rocky, like they are still giving up some runs like right away, they're still finding ways to salvage that. Like that throw on Wednesday that Pages made from center field home to Smith, I think it was 99 miles per hour. They saved that run. Like we already know that defensive run saved, like Andy Pages is up on that list. But it was just like what a play. Like that's some of the baseball that we want to see. And the games may not start out the way that we want, but even in those close scoring games, like there's still, whether it's defensively, offensively, stuff that's happening. Even Kasperius starting that game on Wednesday, they're trying to stretch him out. He may be an interim starter just because all of these dominoes are kind of falling. We have so many injuries, and you've got like, I was just listening to the commentators talk about Freddie Freeman's quad issue. And like you could see, he's like hobbling when he's running. And then at the same time, they said he just recorded the fastest time to first base on one of those like jaunts over there. So it's like even injured, like I said earlier, they're all managing it. They're all out there. Mookie Betts is playing with that toe issue. I think Bill Plunkett just wrote an article talking about how like they were looking back at the beginning of Mookie's, season, and he was like, oh, I was playing like garbage. But stubbing his toe gave him the time to step back, watch more tape without trying to make those adjustments from losing 20 pounds at the beginning of the season, from, fracturing his toe. And now he seems to have found it. Like his numbers over the last couple of weeks have been astounding compared to when he first started the season.
It's amazing to me how Andy Pages, a lot of people have given us flowers with how he's looked at offensively at the plate.
Oh, nope. Tell that robot to stop eating you, because I want to hear what you have to say. All right, try it again. Back it up.
Okay, can we try it again?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Andy Pages has looked great offensively since maybe you could probably say early May. Mm-hmm. It may have started in late April. But what's also has improved greatly is his defense. He went from a guy where it seemed like you question his routes in the outfield, like what is happening, and like the only thing he was really good at was robbing people of home runs. Now people are really, and so I think Rick Monday explained this great on the radio broadcast, is when you're no longer looking over your shoulder in terms of, hey, well, if I do this wrong, they're going to bench me. It's amazing how you can improve because you have that comfort level that no matter what, you are going to be in the lineup every day. And the defensive strides that Andy Pages has made since the beginning of the season to now are very, very noticeable. And so when he makes a play like the one he did where he threw out the player at the plate, I think now people are expecting that from him.
Mm-hmm. Well, and there's like a whole like don't run on Pages at this point, because like he does have a cannon, and there are some I think there's only been like 1 or 2 times where that's bit him in the butt, and I have seen some stuff on social media where people are like, oh, he shouldn't be doing that, and it's like, okay, the 1 time out of 10 he makes a mistake, like that kid has a cannon. It was watching him, I think I was texting with a friend, and I'm like, it was very Puig like, just the throw that he made and the accuracy, because when he threw to home plate, it also had to like taper to the side for Smith to get it with that split second to tag the runner out. And like he threw it perfectly, and it was beautiful to watch. Like they ended up winning that game, and it was a nail biter going in, because you want to win it so bad. And then going into, I think we had extra innings that Monday game. We did. So like it just, it's always going to be that World Series-esque, that postseason-esque feeling when you're playing the Padres right now.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like I said, I walked away impressed, especially with the way the pitching matchups lined up. I was just like, this is going to be tough. And so you got to give the Dodgers credit For them to be able to win that series in the manner that they did, I think really once again speaks really well of this team. And now you're going to wonder once the reinforcements start coming back. Michael Kopech came back. He looked a little shaky. He looked like he was having the same problems that he was having down in his rehab. But you figure, all right, it'll probably take Michael Kopech some time, and you hope that he gets to the point of where he looked like last year. But with relievers, it's always so volatile. You never know what you're going to get with relievers. But you're starting to get pitchers back, and you're hoping that maybe it's just going to continue to strengthen the team. And then what's going to happen what we've seen every summer, and that is that this team goes on a tear. Because right now, and we've been saying this the last few episodes, they are going through a brutal stretch where they are playing teams with winning records that are very good teams. But once
Mhm.
they get past this stretch, they have the easiest schedule in Major League Baseball till the end of the season. So I'm the Giants. If I'm the Show Pods, you want to get the Dodgers now. Because if you wait until they start getting healthy and then their schedule gets easy, that might be like, that's when the Dodgers, and then at the end, everybody's going to be like, what did I tell you? See, no pasa nada. You didn't have to worry about anything.
Right. And the two games in those series that we lost, they were to people who typically have our number, like Dylan Cease on the Padres. I was not shocked that what happened that game happened. And then we saw that again kind of tapering into the San Francisco series. Logan Webb, he's a Dodger killer. I was watching the game at the brewery and somebody came up again, my Angels buddies, and he mentioned, he's like, I didn't realize that Logan Webb pitched you guys so well. And I was like, yeah, he's a known Dodger killer. He has been. Like, this guy, he has our number, and he did in that Friday game.
Yeah, Logan Webb is good, man. I mean, he is, and you know what? I know this is where people will start giving me grief because I can't say anything good about the San Francisco Giants, nor should I say anything good about the San Francisco Giants. But I kind of have a soft spot in my heart for Logan Webb. I don't know if you ever saw the interview that he did when someone farted in the
Okay, of
background.
course this is it. Which one did you like?
The one where he farted, he didn't fart, but someone in the background farted in the locker room, and then he couldn't keep a straight face. Like he was laughing, trying to answer the question the reporter asked, but he was just laughing, and he was just like, I'm sorry, I just think farts are funny. He, like, to me, I identified with him so much in that moment that even though he does play for the San Francisco Giants, but look,
He is also just a man, Juan. He's also just a man.
but he's good, man. The movement he had on his pitches, and look, I mean, we can segue now if you want into that. He got this series because I know that people wanted to string up that umpire, by the shoelaces.
Did you see the umpire scorecards? So I was looking at them, and somebody had posted in the comments basically layering all three of them. All 3 days of that series, they were in favor of the Giants. So Friday's game was plus 1.36, Saturday's was plus 1.11, and Sunday's game was plus 1.21 overall favor for the Giants. And those strike zones were, I mean, they both were feeling it. Make no mistake, it was both sides, but it just, man, there were some where it was like, that is clearly outside.
Yeah, you know what? I thought it was for both. I didn't know that it ended up favoring the Giants for all 3 games.
Yeah, so I mean, it to be fair, there were calls on both sides of the field or both sides of the plate that favored or were against both teams. But when you added it all up, it was overall in favor of the Giants.
But he was good because when he wasn't getting, and this is something that Yamamoto didn't do on Friday, and I think that was the big difference, is when Logan Webb wasn't getting those calls, What you saw Logan Webb do was he started taking more off of his pitches. Therefore, his pitches were catching more of the plate. And then he started getting those calls.
Mm-hmm.
And Dave Roberts said this after the game on Friday, and it felt like that Yamamoto was being too fine, that Yamamoto was really just living on the outside. It was almost like Yamamoto was afraid to go over the plate with his stuff. And look, he knows his stuff better than anybody. So maybe Yamamoto didn't feel like he had it that night, and that's why he didn't want to go anywhere near the plate with
Well,
his stuff.
you saw that in the third inning with that grand slam, because all three that got on base, he walked. So you had walked the bases full, and then Casey Schmidt comes up and basically hits a grand slam. And maybe this is a teachable moment for him of like, hey, did you see what Logan Webb did over the plate? Now this is what we need to, like, where you can go. And yes, maybe you shouldn't go inside, or you shouldn't be like right over the plate, but at the same time, you still have to have strategies for that.
Casey Schmidt in that Friday and Saturday game, excuse me.
Don't die, amigo. Drink some water. Here, I'll say it. Look, drink some water.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I should start playing my own game here. In those two games, Casey Schmidt he had 8 RBIs in those two games. He
hit both of the grand slams. Now, granted, one was off Kike, but still,
he had 10 RBIs going into that. Oh no, he had less than 10 RBIs. So he almost, I think he had more RBIs in those two games than he had in the whole season up until that point. That's how crazy Major League Baseball is.
And that's why we love the game so much, because you seriously can't predict this stuff. You've got so many facets or factors that are going into it. You've got an umpire that, while that umpire was still above 90% accuracy, still not really calling fully, where we would like to see calls being, called on the plate. But you've also got people who are, taking advantage of mistakes over the plate. You've got Casey Schmidt with 2 grand slams. I'd heard this stat before, and I think the first time I heard it, I didn't believe it then, but like, the Dodgers don't have a grand slam yet this season. And I'm honestly a little shocked, because, they're usually known for doing stuff like that. But the fact that, the Giants stuck it to them 2 nights in a row, and we still don't even have one yet.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I forgot to mention about the Chopin series was Ben Kasparius, and how the Dodgers now are going to be using Ben Kasparius more as a starter, is what they had said, right?
Yeah, no, I said I mentioned they were gonna stretch him out to be an interim starter. Yeah.
So my question now is, going into this, it's a 4-game series with the show pods that starts tonight. If Emmett Sheehan gets activated, does that change anything with Ben Kasparius? Do you think they will still continue to stretch him out and use Ben Kasparius as a starter? Because unfortunately, by making that move, I think you're losing a very valuable weapon in the bullpen with Ben Kasparius.
So it sounds like you got eaten by a robot again, but from what I gathered, you said was basically if they do start to stretch him out, they're losing a valuable bullpen piece. And I don't think that's inaccurate, but if we're already using him almost in a piggyback role anyway, to me it's just like, all right, are you just doing it in the beginning of the game, or are you doing it more towards the end? Either way, whatever they decide to do, he's an innings eater. And that's what they're going to do. I can't say I would be shocked, because the Dodgers do stuff all the time that I'm just, it's not what I would do, but that doesn't mean that it's wrong. I think with Sheehan coming back, because it's still kind of a wild card, we don't know how he's going to settle in initially coming off of injury. So you might want to keep Kasparius in that interim starter role just as a backup, or maybe you work him up just to use him in those emergency situations, or maybe you save him that way just for towards the end of the season. He can do both, but he's at least been broken in to be able to do that. And then as Sheehan kind of gets more acclimated, do you keep him as more of your regular starter, and then you can kind of ease Kasparius back, but just keep him, maybe every so often he's going to pitch more innings in a week just to keep him built up.
Yeah, it's something to keep an eye on. But for now, hey, look, let's give this guy credit because who knows how much longer he's going to be able to do this. But Mr. Clayton Kershaw sure did look good on Saturday. That seemed like it was a throwback, right?
That and his last start. So he now has 2 wins. So a couple of things for him. He's now at 2,988 strikeouts. So we're 12 away from 3,000. This was the 65th time in his career that he's thrown at least 7 scoreless innings. And that's the most of any active pitcher. And I think they were saying on one of the radio broadcasts, it might have been Rick Monday or it was Tim Neverett. They were saying they should look up and see I'm sorry. I apologize. It was Oral Hershiser. They should look up and see how many times he has been the cause of people getting free Jack in the Box or, free food in general based on how he pitched a game.
Well, I think they came up with it. Wasn't it
Did they?
230? I think it was 230 times of his 470 something starts because I think I remember hearing this on the broadcast.
Okay, you can put a pin. You can finish it because I didn't hear that piece. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I mean that's crazy. That's nuts. That single-handedly he has been that responsible for that many free Jack in the Box. Am I Max Headrooming again?
Yeah, you're getting eaten by a robot. But to your point, the fact that so many people have gotten to eat the day after he pitches, I mean, that's pretty impressive. That's a lot of either chicken nuggets, jumbo jacks, depending on what the stat is of the night. But yeah, just he did an amazing job. Shohei Ohtani hitting 2 home runs in that game. He's now at 25 home runs, 11 stolen bases, and that second home run was his 250th career home run. So I think I saw a stat that from OptaStats that players with 25 plus or 25 or more home runs, 10 or more stolen bases, and 5 or more triples before July in a season in MLB history are Shohei Ohtani in 2023 and Shohei Ohtani in 2025. Shocking, right?
Yeah, I mean he's. Am I Max Headrooming or now I'm so
Nope,
paranoid?
you're good. I know. Don't be paranoid. I'll catch you.
Yeah, I just have to warn you guys that I am. Everything sounds fine on my end. I am not aware of when I'm Max Headrooming, so I need to depend on Amie to go ahead and fill me in on this.
Yeah, and
But,
we did have the discussion beforehand of do we cancel or do we just, with Juan on assignment, do we just power through so that we can get you guys a show? And we are erring on the side of getting you guys a show. So thank you so much for just being patient with us and playing along.
yes, and if you guys are just like, if Juan's on assignment, maybe you guys should hold off doing a show. Let us know either way.
Yeah. But yeah, go ahead.
I hope that he can continue. I mean, he was so efficient on Saturday. Now, again, I don't expect that out of every time he's out there. I really don't. I'll take what he looked like against the Cardenales, but he really looked good against the Gigantes on Saturday. But I really hope that he can do this until the end of the season. Just because,
or at least till 3,000. I'm selfishly wanting him to hit his stat. The season selfishness of me is like, let's let him get to the end of the season so he has a good season. We have more pitching, but
Yeah, but I would like to see him finish the season actually healthy, as opposed to being on the injured list. Just because if this is the last draw, and as we found out on the broadcast yesterday, he's going to be a father again. Did you see that, Amie?
I did hear that. So it sounds like Ellen is pregnant with their 5th child. I think they did say it was going to be a girl. So they're adding to their little brood. And we did get to see all the Dodgers kiddos on Father's Day. So there were a lot of social media posts. We got to see all of the kiddos throw out a pitch before the game, all the chaos that was on the field. I think my favorite was on social media was Kike's daughter pitching, doing his little hip swivel, but also wearing the pitching helmet, and then seeing Teoscar in the dugout with his 3 little kiddos and like throwing seeds. Like just getting to see them be part of the game is always fun.
Kershaw's 37. We've been saying this, it seems like, for the last few seasons, that this may be the last hurrah. This may be last hurrah. I do think we're really getting close to that last hurrah. And that's the reason why I would love to see him just finish the season, get the 3,000, and basically get to leave the game on his own terms as opposed to the game retiring him.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm sure if he heard this, he would probably say, hey, dude, slow down. Okay, no one's talking about retirement right now, But
Mm-hmm.
it's just been really, I've just been really impressed with all the injuries that he's had to deal with for him to look the way he's looked the last 2 games. It's been really fun to watch.
Oh, Robot ate you again, but basically what you were saying was that it's been really fun to watch. And I think a lot of us who got to see him start out or, came in midway through his pitching career, depending on when anybody, how you were fanning in the last, almost 2 decades of him pitching, it's you want him to end on a high note, but it's also everybody realizing like this is not young Kershaw who debuted 18 years ago. We are getting to the end, and that's also the cyclical part of baseball where you do start to see some of those players that you have gotten used to watching every season, and now knowing like, wow, he's winding down. We're not gonna see him on the field soon, and it's just that baseball mortality, if you will, that we're also seeing in play as well. Whether he has more in the tank or not, it's still he's more towards the end of his career than he is at the beginning.
Am I still Max Headrooming?
Not at the moment, good sir.
All right, good deal. Is there anything else that you want to talk about the Dodgers and the Giants?
So the last things that I did want to mention on the Giants series was that while Kike was pitching in that second game, he got his first career strikeout. So I didn't see if they got the ball. It looked like they were trying to you saw Dustin May's reaction on the broadcast of basically just he finally did it, struck somebody out, which I think was hilarious when I was watching the game with my friend. But hopefully he got that ball because really, I think the only thing he has left to do still is catch. And that's left over from a couple years ago, let Kike catch. But I mean, he has so far been the de facto position player. I thought Miggy Rowe was going to get some of those innings, and Kike's basically been taking them all.
Yeah, Miggy Rowe has not. I can't remember when was the last time he went.
Oh, you're breaking up again. I think he pitched against the Marlins. I'd have to go back. I'm on my second scorebook, so I don't have my record in here that I can go back to because this one only goes to the end of May. So unfortunately, that is across the room in my studio. So, but I don't think it hasn't been recently at all. Kike's been pretty much taking the brunt of it lately.
I will give him kudos for the way he got strikeout. Am I accentuating again?
A little bit, yeah. So kudos on the way that he did do the strikeout. You were saying?
Absolutely. Am I coming in clear again?
Yes, for the moment. Go.
All right. The way he hit 87 miles per hour to get that strikeout was pretty impressive, I would say.
Yes.
He picked the right time to go ahead and amp it out.
and he got it, which is, I think that maybe it was a combination of oh my gosh, he pitched more than 80 miles per hour on Dustin May's face, plus also getting the strikeout. It was just wow, he did it. Because we're used to seeing him just throw that ephus so that he can be a little safer and hopefully not, cause any injury to himself.
But on top of the velocity, Amy, it was the location. That was great location on that pitch.
And you get like just the faces he makes on the mound. Like he at least makes it fun. I was a little bummed out that his ERA did get inflated to 9 because of that grand slam. And we saw what we hadn't seen thus far with him coming into pitch was he got taken out of the game so that Anthony Bonda could come in and finish it off, because up to that point, I believe it was a shutout. And then he gave up 5 runs in that inning, and they had to bring Bonda in, and it was almost that moment of like, he knows he needs to walk off the mound, right? Like, because he's a position player. He's not used to getting swapped out as a pitcher.
Yeah, but the issue at hand was he wasn't leaving the game because they threw him out in the outfield to finish the game.
Yeah. So he was, not only did I think he hit in that game, but he pitched, because he did not start out in that game. So he came in, I'm trying to see here. Gosh, I gotta jump games. But like, if I'm not mistaken, he hit, pitched, and played in left field. So, yeah, he did. He did do all of that. So he came in the top of the 7th, pitched, and then he also looks like he may have gotten an at bat. So.
Well, he's definitely going to be comparing his numbers to Shohei's numbers today. So
well, and technically he was the first two-way player on the team this season, because we're just going to see Shohei pitch for the first time tonight. So how many games does Kike have under his belt versus Shohei at this point?
That's a very good point. I will say this, Amie. There was a point in me that I was rooting that the Gigantes would come back to tie that game, just because of how much I hate seeing position players pitch.
You shut your mouth. You shut your mouth. No, I don't ever want that to be the case. You as much as you hate position players pitching, I have to say I have not had to hear an ESPN game in a while, because I'm usually at the stadium on Sundays when those ones are on. And the amount of talk about the Rafael Devers trade that happened as Sunday's game was starting, I turned on the radio broadcast because they weren't even calling the game, the majority of the game on Sunday. I don't know if you were watching, but it was just like, wow, plays are happening. Okay, we're still talking about Devers. Like, oh, he hit the ball. Like, it was just, I was intrigued that there was no game calling going on for the duration of that game on Sunday.
I mean, look, Drake.
Whoa.
Can you hear me?
There you go. Yep, go.
I mean, that's a huge deal. That's normally, at least in baseball, that is not a deal that happens in June. And to have a player of his quality, I think is going to help the Giants a lot. I also feel part of it is the shock of what the hell were the Red Sox doing? And I'm not talking in terms of the return that they got on Devers. I'm talking about the fact that Bregman, and for those of you who aren't familiar with the situation over there, the reason why Devers didn't seem like he was appreciated was Devers wanted to play on the field. Devers plays third base. Bregman is their third baseman right now. So because of that, Devers has to be the DH. Now, the thing is that Devers has a 10-year contract. Bregman can opt out of his contract at the end of this year. If you're the Red Sox, wouldn't you have at least kept Devers until next year? That way, if Bregman does decide to leave, you at least still have a third baseman. So I get it. They spent way too much time because they were doing a disservice. Now, I'm sure the way they can justify it is because...
Whoa. Okay, giving you a pause for a second. While you are saying that, you're correct. He is signed through 2033. He was on a 10-year, well, I guess currently is on a 10-year, $313,500,000 contract. So he has about a little over $250 million left, and the Giants are going to eat that. They're going to take that on to have him on the team. And for anybody who wasn't paying attention yesterday, Kyle Harrison was scheduled to start, and then he wasn't, which is how we ended up seeing, trying to see who ended up starting yesterday's game for them. It was Sean Jelly. So he was not prepared to start that game because at the start, Kyle Harrison was slotted into that. So sorry, you were going to say something about ESPN talking about.
Can you hear me? Am I coming in?
Yep.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Look, I'm sure ESPN can justify, because one of those teams that were involved in that trade was playing in the game. So I'm sure that's how they justified it. It was just also, in my opinion, it's just huge news because you just don't see that kind of move that early in a baseball season. That's a move that you expected in July. But I also feel like that's going to be a good move for the Giants. The Giants, I think the belief is already that they are for real. There was that year not too long ago where everybody was accusing them of devil magic, and they ended up winning the division. I mean, the Giants are the only team in the last decade, other than the Dodgers, to win the National League West. So for them especially when we sit here and we complain that not enough teams in Major League Baseball are going for it, here are the Giants, and here is Buster Posey, a rookie GM, making these moves. And look, this is good for baseball. So I get that people were complaining that they were spending too much time on it, but I do think it was important to spend time on it because it does signify that. Am I max damage rooming again?
No, I'm upset, but go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh.
No, you're fine. I'm letting you talk right now while you have reception.
You were shaking your head. I thought you were just like, hey, you're breaking up again.
No.
I get it, but I do think it's a good move for the Giants, and I do think that this means that now they lost a pitcher, and obviously pitching is the name of the game. So I am curious, will he be able to make up offensively what they're losing in pitching, or now have they hurt themselves with a lack of pitching? But they can always go out there and make a move to add more pitching. So right now, I think you have to look at it as the Giants are going to be in this, for the long run, and the Dodgers. Yes, that being said, it is still June, but I think they're going to have a battle on their hands for this division.
It is still June, but you have the trade deadline. Like it's gonna creep up on us pretty quickly. And I don't disagree with anything you're saying. Like I think this is an amazing move for the Giants. I think they won that trade. It doesn't need to be the entire game. It was the entire game that they were talking about that. Interviewing players, interviewing other people. That's great. Save that for after the game. Like I understand you want to get the breaking news. Great. Talk about it. Even if you talk about it for an inning, fine. But to do that for the entirety of the game while a game is being played, to me, like there's a time and place. To me, that was just like I'm trying to watch the game. This is the only way I can access it, barring being there. And I can't see the game because you're showing me players and their reactions and stuff. I get it, fine. You're not even calling the game. You've kind of given up on that unless a big play is happening. Great. I'll put Tim Neverett and Rick Monday on. But at the same time, if I can't even see parts of the game because you're showing me people around, no, that's not what we're here for. Do that afterwards. But, that's my opinion. And those are the things that bother me that I have no control over. So
I see your point, because even after the game, when SportsCenter came on and they were interviewing Mookie, the first question they asked him was his reaction to the Devers trade.
That's okay. Good for the Giants. It is a good move, but
I think it's a fair question. I don't know if that's the first question I would have led with after your team just won a game against a division rival and won the series. But again, yes, they were definitely pushing the Devers angle.
Yeah. It was a little bit exorbitant in my opinion. There were people on there that were like, "Oh, hey, I turned on the game." I think it was Doyers Dave posted something like, "Turned on the game and, didn't realize I had turned on, Rafael Devers talk, whatever he said. It was funny, but like that's exactly what it felt like. It was like, did somebody just hit the ball? Who's up to bat? Like, what's going on? I could see more on game day than I could on what was on the TV, but who knows? There probably were lots of people where that was so exciting to them. They didn't care about the game and they loved that they were covering that there. So, to each their own.
Absolutely. Anything else you want to add about the Dodgers and the Giants?
No, just the fact that they managed to come out where we thought these could be some, like we said in the beginning, these could have been some games that really knocked the Dodgers back, and they managed to hold their own to the point where, they're up 2 games on the Giants, 3 games on the Padres. Like, well done, guys. Like, I know we have nothing to do with that, or, they're never going to hear this, but, great job holding their own.
Yeah, again, it says a lot about their team that they were able to win 2 big series against 2 big division rivals, especially the Gigantes, who have been playing really good baseball. And to go out there with Yamamoto not looking good.
With Yamamoto not looking good. Yeah. I mean, he's still managed to make it through. He made it through 4 2/3 innings, but you're right, he did give up 5 runs. So
yeah, I think it was a good week, at least on the field, for the Dodgers.
Yes.
Do you have any other updates that you want to go into?
I did just want to mention, because since I do a lot of work with SABR and then also the International Women's Baseball Center, there was a huge press release that came out last Tuesday. Like we were rushing to try to get that into our Women in Baseball newsletter on the SABR side, because it was just announced that the World Baseball Softball Confederation, the WBSC, they officially awarded the hosting rights of one of the 2 groups of the WBSC Women's Baseball World Cup in 2026 to the International Women's Baseball Center in Rockford, Illinois. And the International Women's Baseball Center is actually renovating the field that the Rockford Peaches, the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League from the 40s and 50s, where they played. They're renovating that. And that's where some of these games are going to be held in 2026. And this is huge because this is only the second time in the U.S. that the Women's Baseball World Cup will be held here in the States. So just some big news. Keep an eye on it if you're interested in how this league is going. One of the women that I was on the panel with in Cooperstown, she's involved in this as well, Maggie Meidlinger. So just really cool news on the women's baseball side. So just wanted to make sure we could toss that out there if anybody's interested and wants to look into it a little bit more.
Anything else you want to address?
No, I think maybe this is a good time to pause and let all of the people who want peace in their lives and not to have anything beyond baseball touched on. This would be a good time for you to turn off the episode. So thank you for tuning in, and we will talk with you more next week. But I think we have a couple things that we do want to cover. So thank you guys for bearing with us. Thank you for bearing with Juan being on assignment and just making sure that we can get an episode out to you guys, and we will catch you next week.
Okay. So again, it is very I'm very grateful for your guys' patience with the technical issues that we've been having the last couple of weeks. So now we really want to reserve this time. This is an issue that we touched on very, very briefly last week. And you guys let us know, some of you let us know that you guys don't want to hear this, that this is a topic that you are not interested in engaging in. And we get it. This is a baseball show. And a lot of people believe and stick to baseball. A lot of people believe that politics should not be a part of baseball, and they view this as a political issue. But we felt the need that we did need to discuss, in particular, the fact of what is happening in Los Angeles. And for those of you
you're breaking up a little bit, buddy. So basically to just kind of give Juan a pause for a second, because some of you had reached out and mentioned that this was important. We did want to make sure that we took a moment to address it. And Juan, we'll do a check to make sure the robot stopped eating you so you could finish your thought.
How do I sound now?
Great.
Okay. So, for those that aren't familiar, the situation is that ICE and the feds are doing raids in Los Angeles on immigrants, and as a part of that, they also are racially profiling. They're also violating due process of American citizens. And look, if you're not from LA, if you're not living in LA, I don't think you are aware of the level of anxiety, the level of terror that the community is experiencing right now. How does this impact with the Dodgers? Well, here's the thing. I've had a number of American citizens tell me they're afraid to go to Dodger Stadium. Now, there are reports that ICE has been staging their equipment, their transportation near Dodger Stadium. There's a lot of stories out there that involve the Dodgers. However, the Dodgers have not made a statement.
Oh,
Yeah.
Take a pause there for a second. I just need to make sure your connection resumes.
Am I back?
You are back.
Okay. Again, apologies. I know this is extremely frustrating. This is not how I wanted to do this episode, but of course, in to try to make this, waiting on this, I don't think does it any service. But there's a lot of stories out there, and I think what is really making things worse is the fact that the Dodgers have remained silent, and in my opinion, seem to be going out of their way to not comment on this situation. And Amy and I were having this conversation, and I think a very good question has been brought up, and that is, well, what even if they did make a comment, Juan? How is that going to solve anything? How is that going to help? And it's true. The Dodgers, the organization themselves, they can't stop these deportations. They can't stop these raids. I can keep going, but Amy, why don't you come in and give your two thoughts here?
So as you know, I've been one of those people that are concerned. I'm also looking into how I want to continue to fan this season, because the situations are personal to each of us, how we each respond. There are many people who don't think there's anything wrong with it. There are other people who are deeply affected. Juan and I tend to share a similar stance on this. We did see some of the statements that were made by LAFC or Angel City FC, and some of those kind of they align with kind of what I'm feeling right now. And we saw the statement of, we stand with all people seeking safety, dignity, and opportunity, no matter where they come from or where they hope to go. Every person deserves to be treated with dignity and respect. We know not every situation is simple, but offering compassion should never be up for debate. And so while a lot of this is going on, we have seen Kike Hernandez did make a statement on his Instagram post. There are some other situations that are going around, but this is heartbreaking, no matter where you fall on the spectrum, to see this happening in our city. And I think for me, the challenging part is the misinformation that is out there in regard to the peaceful protests and things like that. And because of the misinformation, there are a lot of people who are commenting about rioting and looting, and that's not to say that it's not happening. But there are plenty of people who are peacefully protesting, and that is, exercising their First Amendment right. And sometimes the two are not the same thing. Rioters and looters may not be part of that protest. And I think some of that message needs to make it out, because outside of Los Angeles, from what I'm hearing of people that I know in other areas, they think the city is burning, and it is not. It's people just standing up for other people's rights, or at least the dignity or the need to have due process.
A couple of things that I just want to piggyback on what you're saying. One,
Kiki Hernandez made a statement on his Instagram, and keep me honest here, Amy. I believe he is the only player at this point, as of Monday, that has even remotely addressed the issue.
Correct. As far as I know, yes.
USA Today did reach out to other players on the Dodgers. None of them wanted to comment on the situation.
And devil's advocate on there again. We don't know the situation. I'm not defending. I'm just. This is the conversation Juan and I had yesterday. Was we also don't know the pressure that they're getting, being told you cannot respond, you should not respond. Whether that's all the way from the front office, whether that's Dave Roberts, whether that's the players, is that coming from MLB, etc. We don't know. That is again not trying to make excuses, just saying that we do not know the entirety of the situation.
Right, which leads me to, if anything, I strongly recommend Dylan Hernandez of the Los Angeles Times wrote a piece on this subject, and Blake Williams of Dodger Blue wrote a wonderful piece on this situation as well. Those two are, in my, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, are the only reporters that cover the Dodgers that have even remotely addressed this issue. And to Amy's point, yes, we don't know if the Dodger players have been told.
You're breaking up for a second. So what you were saying is we don't know if the Dodger players have been told. So let's try it again, see if your connection's there.
Did I break up again?
You did, but I just rephrased it for you so you can go ahead and pick up where you left off.
Okay, sorry about that. But what we do know is that Lon Rosen, who is the VP of marketing of the Dodgers, did tell Dylan Hernandez that they don't have comment on this and that they won't be commenting on anything. And again, I can't stress enough, guys, in terms of the Dodgers have a right to, if they don't want to make a comment on it, they don't want to make a comment on it. And like I said, it is up for debate. Does even them making a comment, how does that help the situation? They are not the only sports franchise in Los Angeles that have been silent on this. The Lakers have said nothing. The Clippers have said nothing. The Rams and the Chargers have said nothing. The Angels have said nothing. There are a lot of sports teams that have kept their mouth shut on this. Now, the issue I think that a lot of Dodger fans have
you said that they have other sports teams have not said anything, and the issue that some Dodgers fans are having. Go ahead.
In the past, the Dodgers have made statements. For example, in 2023, they made a statement that they supported Israel. And so I can understand why fans, especially people in the community, are a little upset about that you would make a statement about a foreign country before you would about a local community. I think Kike should be commended for the courage to actually be, for him to say something, because I didn't go completely into his comments on his posts, but he took a lot of shit. So there was still a lot of people who applauded him for doing it. It was probably the same amount of people that shit on him. And I've seen it. I've seen those negative.
You're breaking up again. So you were saying that some of the comments that he got were all, some were congratulatory, some were not great, and you've seen it. I'm assuming
I've seen the negativity towards Kike, and I'm sure other players they all have their reasons, but I'm sure other players in that clubhouse don't want to invite any of that stuff. They don't want to get the negative comments, not only directed at them or directed at their family, because a lot of these players have social media presences now. I'm sure there's players in that clubhouse that think maybe this isn't their fight because they aren't immigrants. So, how can they speak to this? Look, they are entitled to feel how they feel. The issue for me, really, honestly, is I think the Dodgers, if they would have made a statement, because we are now going into week 2 of this situation. Now it's too late. I think if the Dodgers would have made a statement right when this started, it would have helped perhaps maybe ease the community's fear that at least the Dodgers are on their side, or that the going to Dodger Stadium is a safe place. Right now, what I am hearing from Dodger fans is they are afraid to go to Dodger Stadium because of the rumors of ICE. Um, they don't want to go to Dodger Stadium because they feel that the Dodgers are maybe complicit with ICE in this situation. And I feel that if the Dodgers would have made a statement, maybe you wouldn't have fans feeling this way. They wouldn't be questioning what side are the Dodgers on. There is a Desmond Tutu quote that I'm seeing everywhere there, where if you stay silent, you've already chosen the side of the oppressor. And that's, to me, there was a statement that was released by the owner of the Santa Fe Springs swap meet. If anybody is not familiar, the Santa Fe Springs swap meet was rigged by ICE on Father's Day. Maybe it was Saturday, excuse me, but it was over the weekend. Immediately, there were people saying they weren't going to go to the swap meet anymore. Now, whether this was a genuine
Well,
statement
take
or
a
not,
pause, buddy.
the owner.
You're breaking up again, so we just need to give your connection a pause for a second. So, all right, try again.
Am I coming in now?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so whether this is a genuine statement or not from Santa Fe Springs, they came out and they said they did not give permission for ICE to come on their grounds. They don't condone this. They are supporting their society. Now, whether you believe it or not, the fact that they came out and they said that is more than what the Dodgers have done. And I think that's the reason why you have people now that are so angry at the Dodgers that they are now, like Amie said, questioning their fandom. They don't want to go to games right now. So I am curious as to how the Dodgers would change that. How can they earn back these players' dollars? Now the question in it, and I know this is a conversation you and I have had, Amie, do the Dodgers even care with all the money that they're getting from Japan and Asia right now? It would take a lot for the Dodgers to hurt it financially. But I do feel that their brand has definitely taken a hit, and only because of their refusal to make a statement.
And this is where it does get intensely personal for people, because there are going to be people on both sides. Like, when we started this podcast, we started it, part of the name, as we've shared before, Baseball Shangri-La comes from Chavez Ravine and the three communities, La Loma, Bishop, and Palo Verde. And that was the poor man's Shangri-La. And so we wanted to give kind of honor to that, or an homage, and that's where part of the name of our podcast comes from. So this is something that is intensely personal to both of us, and these are difficult times for everybody. And yeah, this topic has me speechless, because it's scary, it's sad, and baseball is my refuge. But right now, like Juan said, it's something where I'm concerned about going to the stadium. So,
I'm
we
glad
all have our personal situations with this.
I'm glad you brought up Chavez Ravine, because this has completely ripped that scab open. I think there was a lot of people that thought that scab had healed, especially with Fernando Valenzuela, and with time, that we have gotten past that point. But because the events that are going on right now, people will say, well, that's different than Chavez Ravine. Other people will say, no, it's not that different. It's not that distant. And so what has happened is that scab has been reopened. And I've seen a lot of Dodger fans saying that they're not going to go. They are angry with the team. There was a fan Friday night who held up a no ice sign. Now, full disclosure, Dodger Stadium has a no sign policy. You are not allowed to bring in signs into Dodger Stadium. So this woman was escorted out. Now, everyone thought she was kicked out of the game. She wasn't kicked out of the game. They just took the sign from her, and then she was able to return back with her party. But everywhere on social media, it's out there that the Dodgers kicked her out because she held up a no ice sign. And this is, again, the Dodgers' reluctance to even address this issue, I think, is hurting them, because they could have very clearly, look, we don't support this, but because they remain silent, they have their fan base, part of their fan base, thinking that they do deserve this. There was an issue that happened on Saturday where the singer who sang the national anthem sang the national anthem in Spanish. It was the U.S. national anthem, a Spanish version of it that was sanctioned in 1945. So it wasn't that she was singing the national anthem of Mexico or the national anthem from Spain. It was the U.S. national anthem. It was just in Spanish. People that attended that game loved it, thought it was great. However, the Dodgers had told her beforehand they didn't want her singing that version. And I get it, because there are people that, the national anthem is a very touchy subject. Don't mess with the national anthem. She did it anyways. Now, she did it because she had her reasonings for it. But again, this all stems from the fact that the Dodgers have not come out and made a statement saying, we are on your side. So, of course, fans are interpreting all of this as, wow, you really seem to be going out of your way to no ice, and now she can't even acknowledge immigrants. And what makes it so crazy, Amy, who is pitching tonight for the Dodgers at the time we are recording this on Monday?
It will be Shohei Ohtani.
An immigrant is on the mound. The Dodgers are wearing a number 34 patch to honor the legacy of Fernando Valenzuela, an immigrant. Fernando Valenzuela's daughter came out there and made this statement. So the Dodgers are trying to have their cake and eat it too. They are trying so desperately to not offend a certain fan base by completely deserting one that has been completely loyal to them. And it just doesn't feel right. Again, I can't stress enough, I don't feel like, okay, the Dodgers putting out a statement is going to stop these raids. I don't believe that, but they consider themselves a pillar of Los Angeles. There are a lot of people that look at that Dodgers organization as a pillar of Los Angeles. For them to remain silent on this issue, and I know some of you have already sent me messages saying, it's the law, Juan, it's the law, they're just following the law. I saw a video today that broke me. There was a 2-year-old in a car seat, and ICE took her. Now, what would that 2-year-old, how is she a criminal? What could she do to harm this country? This is a moral issue. And the fact that the Dodgers have remained quiet on a moral issue it's heartbreaking. It really is. Because you've had people in this country who've had their visas revoked, that were here legally, that have had their green cards revoked for, it doesn't seem like it's lawful reasons. You have Dodger players that are playing here on visas. What would happen if they did that to one of those players? What if there was an ICE agent who didn't recognize who Andy Pages was, and all of a sudden threw Andy Pages in a van, and nobody knows where Andy Pages is?
I'm gonna wrap this up, just because I know we've taken a lot of time on here. I will say something from Blake Williams' article. They did say that being an undocumented immigrant in the United States is nothing more than a civil offense. It's similar to a parking ticket, and the law states it is enforceable by a fine, and deportation is only intended for extreme cases. So, being that that is a severe measure, typically for immigrants who commit criminal acts, pose a threat to safety, or violate their visas. So, I want to make sure we give this time, but I also want to make sure that, you know, we are conscious of everybody's having an opinion on this, because these are our opinions.
That is very true. That is very true. I think again that's really all it is just the question that needs to be answered, and will it ever be answered, is why did they remain silent on this when they've spoken of other things in the past? And it makes I'm very curious to see how the rest of this season plays out. And I'm really curious to see how Dodger fans react to this, because this is starting to get more media coverage. And that story with the Dominican singer on Saturday, that's been playing on local news. Have you seen it, Amie?
Mm-mm, I haven't.
It's been reaching local news. So I am very curious. I don't know if we're going to revisit this topic again. I really don't, because I think we've said everything we need to say about it. If anything else would happen, I don't know. I guess maybe the only way we would readdress it, Amie, is if the Dodgers actually did say something, right?
I mean, at this point, it's we don't know what's going to happen day to day. So, I mean, keep your eyes and ears open.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. Again, my apologies for my technical difficulties, ladies and gentlemen. Trust me, no one is more frustrated than me about having to do this. Someone is getting a very strongly worded letter. But anyways, that's going to do it for this episode. If you've been listening to us on the audio portion of the show, please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Rate us, write us a review, help spread the word about the show. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Hit that notification button. Give us a thumbs up. Leave us your comments. We love engaging with you. And most importantly, make sure you're following us on social media, on X at BB Shangri-La, on Instagram, YouTube, and Bluesky at Baseball Shangri-La. She's Amie Cuevas. I'm Juan Ramirez. Nos despedimos con un beso. Amie, say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye, people.